one word to describe the 90s, it would be rad. If you wanted a character to succeed, whether it be a cartoon or a video game, they had to be cool. A kid catching mythical creatures and fighting with them is alright, I guess. If only he could do something about that it's backwards! Now we're in business! More often than not though, these rad redesigns of characters were total failures. However, there is one series that got a total rejuvenation in the 90s with its redesign. Donkey Kong! And the release of Donkey Kong Country. And today, we're gonna discuss the 3 games that came out on the Super Nintendo and how they just might be some of the greatest platformers to exist. So, you all know Donkey Kong, right? This monkey from the original Mario arcade game. Well, forget about him, because this isn't actually the same Donkey Kong that appears in these games. Yeah, Nintendo and Rareware, the company who developed the game, decided that to fully rejuvenate and resurrect Donkey Kong in this new hip era, they decided to age the original Donkey Kong into Cranky Kong, the angry boomer you'll encounter throughout these games, and shine the light on the brand new, well, Donkey Kong. No real difference, except this one wears a tie and listens to hip-hop on his boombox.
It's about drive, it's about power, we stay hungry, we devour.
There's nothing more 90s than that. The Donkey Kong we have now is essentially a mix of Shigeru Miyamoto's original take on Donkey Kong and Rareware's initial sketch, depicting him as a much more angry character, which unfortunately is reserved specifically for Kirby for some ungodly reason. Along with Donkey Kong would also come his equally hip sidekick, Diddy Kong. Diddy was initially meant to be an updated Donkey Kong Jr., also from the arcade games. Nintendo, however, wasn't exactly happy with just how different Donkey Kong Jr. and Diddy Kong were in design, and Nintendo said, either change his design or make him a new character. And thus, Diddy Kong was born. He wears a hat that I'm pretty sure he turns backwards at some point, otherwise it wouldn't be a true 90s property. The name Diddy also came from British slang, where apparently Diddy is slang for small. Is that true, British people? Do you guys see a kitten and go, alright there love, that kitten sure is Diddy? Donkey Kong Country 1 released in November 1994 worldwide on the Super Nintendo, and was one of the first home game consoles to use pre-rendered graphics, achieved through a compression technique that allowed Rare to convert 3D models into SNES sprites without losing much detail. This is why DKC looks unlike anything the console has to offer. Even as a kid, the game kinda freaked me out, because the scenery and characters looked real. Bro, these running pieces of dog crap in the stop and go level made me feel true fear for the first time as a kid. So, Donkey Kong Country has a fairly simple plot. The evil King K. Rool and his minions have stolen Donkey Kong's banana hoard, and you gotta get it back. Simple, yet powerful. The use of 3D models really gives this game a whole new brand of life. The characters' movements, facial reactions, and even the settings themselves just feel so real and alive. The gameplay is obviously though where the game shines. It's simple. You run, jump, and roll. Rolling into enemies gives you a burst of speed, rivaling that of even Sonic the Hedgehog. Donkey Kong can roll into any enemy. However, Diddy is too small, and will simply stop in his tracks like, oh, sorry about that. The plus to Diddy Kong, however, is that his hitbox is much smaller than Donkey Kong's, and his smaller size makes platforming and maneuvering feel more natural and smooth. Finding which style you prefer is really easy, considering you can tag the characters in and out at will. Mechanically speaking, this is awesome, because you can cruise through the level as Diddy, and when there's a bunch of fat enemies ahead, you can use Donkey Kong. But it also feels nice to have that partner constantly by your side, like it's truly a team effort. And if you play multiplayer, you can both control each of the characters when you tag or get hit. It's such a fun way to utilize 2 different characters and forming your bonds with them, and the future games would build and expand on this concept. The game is called Donkey Kong Country, so a lot of this game will have you exploring jungles, caves, underwater, and well, that's it really. Oh yeah, and the Ewok forest. Can't forget about that. It can get a little repetitive, I guess, but the game constantly mixes it up by changing the weather and time of day. The music also helps. Whenever I think of DKC1 music, I always think, wait, did this game even have music? Level 1 starts like this. It really has an immersive feel to it, mimicking noises you'd hear in the jungle. But when it eventually kicks into... Woo! It that makes you go bananas! Oh wait, I didn't mean to. The gameplay is so smooth, and there's a lot of mechanics you'll need to learn, one of which is the rolling jump. It's definitely weird at first and may feel unnatural, but it's a necessity to learn, and once you get the hang of it, it will be a piece of cake. A piece of bread. Banana bread. So how you do this is pretty much, you'll do a running roll at the end of a platform, and right at the very end of that platform, you'll be able to press the jump button and launch yourself, essentially jumping on the air and reaching special areas. Speaking of special, you know what else is special? The entire game! Literally, Donkey Kong Country is littered with secrets and special bonus areas. And when I say littered, I seriously mean it. Every stage has at least 5 secret areas in them. It's honestly amazing. I love to show off to my friends who don't know anything about the games. Throwing barrels into random walls to open up passages, jumping high into randomly placed barrels, and this one in level 2 is my favorite, jumping to my death and seeing my friends go, only to then land in a barrel, get blasted through a wall, and open up a bonus area, which by the way, has the catchiest song ever. Bonuses and secrets are synonymous with Donkey Kong Country. Sometimes you'll even just accidentally come across them. Because the levels are so creative and beautiful, you're just jumping on everything in sight. This game also has a lot of animals. Whether they're the ones you control, the ones you want to get with, ones you beat up, or the ones you ride. This game has animal buddies, which are animals you can ride on like Yoshi and help you get through the level. There's Rambi the rhino, who tears through anything in your way. On Guard the swordfish, who can do the same but underwater. Winky the frog, who can jump high. Espresso the ostrich, who can run fast. These characters are just as lovable as the main cast in my eyes. Once you reach the end of the game, you'll have a battle with King K. Rool, accompanied with an amazingly hype song. You fight him aboard the pirate ship, and it can be pretty difficult for sure, but once you learn his patterns, it's see you later, alligator. And we did it! Hooray! I feel so... Wait, that doesn't seem right. Also, why is the music still playing? Oh, you sneaky monster. Alright, so we just gotta lay the smack down on him twice. Hey, it's no skin off my bananas. So boom, we take him down for real this time, and it's in a while crocodile. And with that, King K. Rool is defeated. Donkey Kong and Diddy get their bananas back, and they all lived happily ever after. Selling 9.3 million copies worldwide, making it the 3rd best-selling Super Nintendo game of all time, which is crazy, and played a huge part in keeping gamers interested in the Super Nintendo instead of switching over to the more powerful PlayStation 1. But at least the Kongs can have a break now and enjoy their massive amounts of bananas. Right? 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 Fast forward just 1 year later on November 21st, 1995, and Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Kong Quest hit the scene. Which, by the way, what a fantastic name. As a kid, I always called it Diddy Kong's Quest. But there's no pun that way. Stupid little waffle. Now, to steal a line from Donkey Kong himself, the sequel is bigger, faster, and stronger too, being acclaimed by most fans as the best in the series. Do I feel the same? Well, let's find out. In this game, King K. Rool is back with a vengeance and actually kidnaps Donkey Kong instead of a banana horde, which is definitely more productive. Diddy Kong makes his return as a playable character, but his partner is a newly introduced character to the series, named Dixie Kong. Dixie is the girlfriend of Diddy, and that's as much as I want my brain to think about that relationship. She's also one of the best characters from a gameplay perspective in the series, because after she jumps, she can use her hair as a propeller to hover up in the air, travel longer distances, and attack enemies. So yeah, she's kind of awesome. So it's up to the boyfriend-girlfriend duo to traverse Crocodile Isle and save Donkey Kong. Crocodile Isle on the surface already feels much more menacing and dirty. Gone are the beautiful jungle and nature setting. Now we're traveling to the enemy in their home turf, where they apparently don't believe in pretty. The game has a very strong pirate theme this time around, with King K. Rool even leaving a note that says, "Ha-ar! We've got the big monkey. If you want him back, you scurvy dogs, you'll have to hand over the banana horn." Captain K. Rool, as well as the first world literally having every stage take place on a pirate ship. In terms of gameplay, things are very much the same as the first game. Secrets and bonuses, however, play a much bigger role as opposed to just earning 1-ups. Finding a secret area and completing the challenge in a short time will grant you either hero coins, creme coins, or banana coins, all of which act as currency to unlock new stages or minigames, which are all necessary if you're looking to 100% the game. As I mentioned earlier, this entry is the most beloved in the Super Nintendo series, and I can understand why. The stages are all unique and varied. DKC1 had a lot of jungles and caves. You'd visit those areas over and over. And while I personally never got sick of it, I could see it getting repetitive for others. In Diddy's Conquest, however, every world has a theme, whether it be a pirate ship, haunted house, theme park, or lava. Just lava. The lava world is the second world in the game, which would be fine, but personally, I feel like the game just gets kinda hard out of nowhere. The difficulty spike is insane. As a kid, this is where I would get stuck and just never progress. That hot air balloon level where you need to just ride the balloons across the floor of lava while avoiding obstacles and refilling it with hot air? Dude, as an 8-year-old, my brain couldn't process all of this at once. Apart from that particular level, all the stages do have a mesmerizing quality to them and are all able to feel unique, despite every stage having a similar theme. Like I said, World 1 takes place on a pirate ship, so you might think that every level is the same. But no, we've got your typical pirate ship overworld, but there's also a sunken underwater area, a high above the sky level that makes you think, how big is this damn boat? Etc. Along with the bigger and better stages, there's also more varied enemies that are also pirate themed. But also, new animal friends. Rambi and Ongard are the only returning animals, excluding Espresso, who was a GBA exclusive. We now have Rattly the Rattlesnake, who's just a new Winky, Clapper the Seal, who puts out fires, Squawks the Parrot, Glimmer the Anglerfish, and my personal favorite, Squitter the Spider. Despite me hating spiders with a passion in real life, he's awesome. He can shoot projectiles and create web platforms. Other friendly characters you'll encounter are Wrinkly Kong, some grandma who works at the Kong College where you'll need to save your game. Saving your game here though costs money, which you can get in the bonus games. Not being able to save as often as you want is just another piece of anxiety that little children will be exposed to. Another fun character though is Swanky Kong, the host of the trivia minigame, where you'll be tested about pieces of trivia you just played, but probably didn't pay too much attention to. It's a fun little change of pace from the main game. The boss battles also have gotten a total rehaul. In DKC1, you were always thrown in the same arena to just simply jump on the boss's head a few times. Now, the bosses have their own unique arenas, as well as new methods to take them down. It's not as easy as just jumping on their heads anymore. And believe me, they're hard. Your DKC2 experience will basically be summed up as seeing the game over screen over and over again. Which I forgot to mention in the first game, but what the hell is up with these game over screens? Some of the most depressing and horrifying imagery I've ever seen. Dude, this straight up gave me nightmares as a child. I saw these screens a lot, and even as an adult today while I was recording footage, this game is easily the most difficult in my opinion. But with the most awesome scenery, and dare I say, epic music, it truly does feel like a conquest. Or a conquest. After you've clawed your way through the game, you'll reach Captain K. Rool, who's absolutely beating the ever-loving piss out of Donkey Kong! Stop! He's already dead! No, he's fine. Similar to the first game, the final battle is insane, memorizing his crazy patterns and managing to get a hit in where you can. DKC final bosses always make me, lose my marbles! Like, I know they're not the hardest thing in the world, but for some reason they always get me angry. And oh, is it so satisfying when you finally beat him and free Donkey Kong, where he uppercuts the life out of K. Rool. And they all lived, for the most part, happily ever after. Apart from this monkey grandpa always complaining, we get it, times were better back then. Donkey Kong Country 2 is such an experience. The game does feel much more grandiose in scale compared to the first game. All the more varied stages and enemies are a welcome addition. Greg Malis was one of the head honchos in charge of DKC2's development, and he personally had a lifelong obsession with pirates, hence why this game has a heavy pirate motif. DKC2 was a success. Shocker. Placing 33rd in the 100th issue of Nintendo Power's 100 Best Nintendo Games of All Time in 1997. But I'm willing to bet even today, if there was a 100 Best Nintendo Games of All Time, DKC2 wouldn't be too far from the top. Personally, for some reason I can't explain, I still love and prefer the first game. Maybe it was because it was my first exposure to the series, maybe it was less intimidating to me as a kid with the difficulty curve being much smaller. But don't get me wrong, the amount I love the first game over the second is minuscule. Almost baby-like. Donkey Kong Country 3, featuring Baby, the third and final edition in the original Donkey Kong Country series. The game is okay. It's not bad by any means, but DKC2 honestly raised the bar so high that it was honestly impossible to go any higher from there. The story of this game is that shortly after the events of the previous game, Donkey and Diddy go missing somewhere in the northern Cremisphere, which is hilarious. And so, it's up to Dixie and newcomer Kiddy Kong to save the day. The full title of the game is Dixie Kong's Double Trouble, which honestly doesn't make any sense. All of these games were technically Double Trouble. For some reason, a lot of people don't like Kiddy Kong. I never really understood that. He's a child! Maybe some of you just hate babies, I don't know. From a gameplay standpoint, Kiddy controls exactly like Donkey Kong. He forward rolls and can take out the heavier enemies. Maybe because of that, people would have just preferred the duo of Donkey Kong and Dixie instead. Now, since Donkey and Diddy have been stolen, vaguely somewhere in the northern Cremisphere, this basically takes our heroes on an adventure all around the Cremisphere, which mainly consists of islands and lakes. A pretty interesting feature they added was that the player now has to physically move the characters around the map to find the levels. To unlock these levels, you'll sometimes need to find secret areas and solve little puzzles. It feels like an RPG a bit, and considering the Super Nintendo was loaded with them, it's very fitting. The core game, though, is still Donkey Kong Country. I never actually played this game as a kid, not being able to get my hands on it until years later. I think the main issue with this game is that it just kinda blends in. DKC1 was the first entry in the series, so everything was new and revolutionary. And with DKC2, they managed to turn everything up to 11 in a way that nobody genuinely could have imagined. But with number 3, it kind of feels like taking a step back from Diddy's Conquest. The stages are once again fairly repetitive like in the first game, taking place, as I mentioned earlier, primarily in lake and forest settings, none of which are particularly memorable. Everyone remembers their first time visiting the Aquatic Ambience or Sticker Brush Symphony, but what memorable stages are there from number 3? I guess I really remember that big barrel looking boss, but that's about it. Now, I know I've been kind of negative so far, but I promise, DKC3 is indeed a fun game at its core. If you never played a Donkey Kong Country game and started with this one, you wouldn't be disappointed. The gameplay is still really solid and addicting. The stages, despite being somewhat repetitive like the first game, they're still super gorgeous to look at with unique backgrounds. Bonus rooms and secrets are of course a mainstay of the series that once again give you coins and collectibles. Animal friends are also back, with the new main one being Ellie the elephant, who honestly is probably my favorite out of the whole series. Honestly, the best way I can describe this game is to say that it feels like a very good and high quality ROM hack. It has solid level design and gorgeous visuals, but it's just lacking that something. That Nintendo something that makes their game stand out from the rest. Again, in my opinion. If you love this game and think I'm a big stupid idiot, then you're absolutely right. The finale of this game has us taking on Nautilus K. Rulenstein, which is now a mad scientist alter ego, because why not? It does make an incredibly fun and unique boss battle though. Once we take him down, we then go to the pearly whites of heaven and speak to the holy Mayan bird, who helps us stop K. Rulenstein, save Donkey and Diddy Kong, and you win? Come again? Donkey Kong Country 3 is a really fun time, but me gushing about 3 games in a row would get a bit boring, don't you think? Regardless, the Donkey Kong Country series, however, are the most consistently good games a console has ever seen. Seriously, name 3 games anywhere that came out, were all on the same console, and were universally loved. These games came out yearly, releasing in 1994, 95, and 96. The only other game series to do that is Call of Duty, and those games are incredibly boring year after year. Even Mario, Nintendo's Golden Boy, only had 2 games come out on the console. It's amazing what the Donkey Kong Country trilogy was able to accomplish. And it hurts that it took them over 10 years to get a new series of country games. But that's a story for a different day. To sum it up though, the original Donkey Kong trilogy? That shit is bananas! B-A-N-A-N-A-S! Have a great day, and I'll see you gorgeous creatures next time!